this later in another video. Hopefully I'll get that video done tonight. But that could explain what's happening here. A friend of mine who came in who was highly intelligent, he's an astronomer and all that stuff. He was explaining something about this galaxy. It's funny, Galaxy Cafe. He explained something about actually this solar system in the galaxy and all this stuff about this type of wobble that's happening. And that might be why these objects are coming from where they're coming from. Also, there's a lot of noise going on right now. I apologize. Boom, and just like that, we have a whiteboard, clean. So today we're going to see how 3i Atlas can connect to the Roswell crash in 1947. And I apologize also again for those of you who may not like Google Chat, but I need that to help prove my point, to back up the evidence of what I'm trying to explain here. So we have 3i Atlas, right? 3i Atlas. Most people aren't really paying attention to it all that much, but for those of you who are paying attention, it's very important because it very well may be that it is an interstellar object that is being controlled by some higher intelligence or whatever. And this is the reason why, because there's a scramble going on with the government right now in America, especially with Space Force. Now, like I said before, 3i Atlas connects you to the first interstellar object, which was Oumuamua in 2017. Hey, when did Oumuamua first arrive in the solar system?
Well, it was first spotted leaving the inner solar system on October 19, 2017. However, it made its closest approach to the Sun, marking its definitive passage into the solar system's inner region on September 9, 2017, before being discovered.
See, so Oumuamua was already here before they actually discovered it. But when they discovered it, it was October 19th, 2017. So you have Oumuamua, I'm just going to put O for that, okay? And it's October, OCT, 19th, 2017, okay? So Oumuamua came here in October 2017, right? This is why I said it's highly important to pay attention to this stuff. Because, like I said before, what happened with me with my alien experience, it happened when Oumuamua was here before it was actually discovered. I'm not saying it's 100% connected, but what I am saying is you need to pay attention to this next fact. Hey, when did Luis Elizondo go public with ATIP? What month of the year?
Elizondo went public with the information, leading to the New York Times report in December 2017.
Because Luis Elizondo represents the government, regardless of what he says that he's, that he kind of went rogue or whatever and he left the government. That's bullshit. He still has a high security clearance. So we're going to put Gov. G-O-V. Okay, so the government, Luis Elizondo, came out in December of 2017. Let's just get rid of the 19 on there. Because we don't really, that's not as important. So, October, December, literally like 2 months later, after Oumuamua, they publicly announced that they saw this interstellar object coming into the atmosphere. All of a sudden then, you have the government, which Luis Elizondo represents, comes out and says, hey, we've been tracking UAPs and all this stuff. Listen, the American government didn't come out, send somebody out there to talk about this stuff just because they wanted to come clean about things. They're being forced to do it. And don't think that Luis Elizondo, who got all this play on Fox, CNN, MSNBC, C-SPAN, all over the place, that he was just allowed to just come out and say this stuff if they didn't tell him to go out and say this stuff, because now we're hearing reports that there definitely were people who were actually, because they came out and started trying to talk about stuff that happened with them when they were working for the government that had to do with aliens, UFOs, and all this other stuff. So obviously, he is still working for the government. Obviously, he's spearheading the information in the beginning, because that's how you would have to do it. You're not going to have a president of the United States to all of a sudden come out and start telling you about these things. They would do it this way, and that way this has already been in the plans for a long time. Trust me, it's been in the works for a very, very long time, and I can prove that because of Project Blue Book. And we'll see why Project Blue Book was even put in place is because of the Roswell crash, right? So, October, December. Hey, when was Space Force announced?
Donald Trump first announced his intention to create a Space Force on June 18, 2018. However, the U.S. Space Force was established as a new military branch on December 20, 2019, when the National Defense Authorization Act was signed into law.
So he announced Space Force is going to be created in June 2018. So now we have Space Force. I'm just going to put SF, okay, Space Force, and then June of 2018. 2018. Look how close that is. October 2017, December 2017, June 2018. And then in 2019, that's when they officially announced Space Force, that they were actually going to create the branch. Hey, when was the last branch of military actually created before Space Force?
Branch of the military created before the Space Force, 2019, was the Asterisk U.S. Air Force Asterisk, established on September 18, 1947.
So, here we go, guys. This is how you connect it all, right? The Air Force was created in September of 1947. So, we're going to put AF, Air Force, Space Force, so you go from air to space, right? And that was created in September of 1947. I should know that. 1947. So, by the way, here you go. You got some. Okay. Anyhow, so the Air Force was literally created because of what? Why was the Air Force created? Hey, when was the Roswell, New Mexico UFO crash?
Known as the Roswell incident, happened in July 1947.
So Roswell, the UFO, now they call them UAPs, crashed in July 1947. There you go. So that's how you can connect this all the way up to 3i Atlas and why you should pay attention. Obviously, Oumuamua was the trigger that triggered in October of 2017. Oumuamua triggered the United States government that, hey, we've been sitting on UFO, UAP technology, whatever, alien technology, all the way back since 1947. And now something is happening where things are going to come out of our control. We need to get ahead of that, and we need to send somebody out to actually, and this wasn't a spur of the moment thing. It's not how the United States government works. They've been ahead of this for a very long time. They've been waiting for this moment. They've been waiting for Oumuamua 2017 to happen, because literally within a month later, a little over a month later, like a month and a half or whatever, the government comes out and says, you know, here's all this information, you know, here's the gimbal, here's the tic-tac, and you had all, this has been unraveling little by little by little. So they knew that this was coming, right? They knew that this day was coming all the way back since 1947, the Roswell crash. What happened with Oumuamua? Oumuamua triggered the government to give out some information. Same thing happened with the 1947 Roswell crash, because that also triggered the government to come out with Project Blue Book, right? Which came out like a year or two later. Hey, was Project Blue Book put into effect? Oh, I'm sorry, 52.
Blue Book was put into effect by the U.S. Air Force in March 1952.
Which, by the way, was when Harry Truman actually was on his way out the door. And 1952 was also when there had the UFO flyover over top of the White House. You can look that up too. So anyhow, so you see how these things trigger the government to react, right? This would not, Louis would not have came out and reacted if it wasn't for Oumuamua. 3i Atlas is the third interstellar object. Oumuamua was the first. This is why you need to pay attention to this stuff. So if you go down to a year later, after Oumuamua came out, right, then Trump comes out and announces the Space Force. It wasn't even a year. It was June, October, wasn't even a year later. October 2017, and then June 2018, he says, hey, we're going to have a Space Force. They're going to monitor the skies for, you know, hostile other governments. Bullshit. I know that 100%. Of course, they're doing that, but that's only the front, right? It's like a mafia having a fake restaurant, right? But they're really dealing all their stuff in the background stuff. That's just the front, because the Air Force has been doing that for a very long time. They didn't need space. They didn't need a Space Force to do the same thing that the Air Force is doing. They just now took that over and now put that as part of their front program. But really, what's happening is what triggered it was a Muamua, the first interstellar object. So we go down to the Air Force was created as a trigger because of what happened in July of 1947. So July of 1947, there was no Air Force, right? They had the Navy, the Marines, and the Army, and the Navy monitored a lot of the skies with their airplanes. They didn't really need, I don't think, at that point, I mean, I don't know. So they might not have needed an Air Force. It wasn't as much of an emergency until July of 1947, and then it was triggered, boom, July, August, September, within 2 months. Oumuamua, October, November, December, within 2 months. Same thing. That triggered, Roswell triggered the government to come out with the Air Force, right? And then now Air Force has given up some of their duties to the Space Force, which was triggered by Oumuamua. And now I'm just kind of circling back. So you guys, I think by now you pretty much get it. So yeah, this is why you need to pay attention to 3i Atlas. Whether it's just a comet or whatever coming this way, it doesn't matter at the point of fact of the government's going to be reacting, so get ready for that to happen. There will definitely be reactions because we know that, because if we look at history, what the American government has already been doing and how they react to these interstellar objects, UFO crashes, and all these other things, you should probably pay attention to it. And this gives you something to think about, and